Ciao, welcome back to the video paints. I'm Riccardo and today we will improve your mixing skills to make you paint like a professional painter. If you have any question, comment down below, I'll read and answer it. But for now, let's start. Okay, let's talk about mixing strategies. As you can see, I arranged the colors in almost a color wheel with the primaries yellow, blue, and a thing in the middle of these two that is red and magenta, and the secondaries in the violet, orange, and green. This is important to understand the strategies on mixing because the palette and the color wheel will help you a lot in understanding what to do when you mix. So I arranged them in this color wheel in this way because one very basic rule on how to make a color lighter is to go and mix with the color the next color in the color wheel that is nearest to the yellow. So for example, if you want to increase the luminosity, the lightness, and the value of red, you should add the orange in the red. But if you only add orange, something will not feel right. You will feel a color shift more than just an increase in luminosity. So in addition to adding the next color in the color wheel, you should add a little bit of white. But if you only add white to the color, for example red, you add white, and we will see this, you will only get a pink, a desaturated version of that color, because white, yes, increase the value, but desaturate a lot. So the only way to keep the saturation is to add the next color in the color wheel. So red plus white plus a little bit of orange, you add a lighter red. Okay? And at some point you will have only orange plus a little bit of white, but then you start losing saturation again, so you need to add yellow to this mix. Over yellow, there is nothing. You shouldn't go toward the green because yellow is the lightest color in the color wheel in terms of value and luminosity, so it's just white plus yellow, the maximum luminosity you can get while retaining saturation. And of course, you can do the opposite to darken a color. So to darken a yellow, you just need to add a little bit of orange and eventually a little bit of black. And black plus orange actually is brown. So brown is a good color to shade yellow, okay? And you can go towards the blues in this way, okay? What happens with a green? How you should go towards yellow? You should go this way or this other way. You go in the nearest possible way. So to lighten a green, you don't go towards the blue, but you go towards the yellow in this motion. So you add a little bit of yellow or a lighter green, that is not a primary, but a lighter green, and a little bit of white. So you go in this way. When you are in the blue, for example, you go towards the greens, a little bit of green and a little bit of white. When you are down in the purple, you actually can choose which way you prefer, because purple is an interesting color that can go cold or warm depending on what you need. Usually you go towards the magenta though, just to be clear. Okay, I hope this will help, and now we'll see some examples. Okay, I added black and white to the palette just to show. So let's start with the example I was making before with the red. Pick a red. I want to make a lighter color. I have the red, I add the orange, but this is just shifting the color, as you can see. So, as I was saying, you need to add a little bit of white. Maybe now the jump is too big, so we need more red in it. Okay? And you can keep going and make it lighter. So now it's really too pink, so it's needed some more orange. And then a last light that is white, orange, and at this point a little bit of yellow. It becomes an interesting salmon color. Okay, this is a good way of making the red lighter, and it's not too hard. Usually the red, to be perceived a good red, you need to have most of the light part in just red, because red is already is a very specific color. We perceive it in a very narrow band of colors, of hue. So the vast majority of the surface needs to be covered with just the red, and a very small part with this. Then to darken the red, there are two ways, or to darken any color, and it is adding the colder version of it. So in this case magenta, and a tip of black. So you add a darker, colder version of it. The other way is to add the complementary color, meaning the color that is on the opposite side of the color wheel, that is a secondary color, green in this case. So if you add red plus a tip of green, you will desaturate and make it darker at the same time. Curious enough, you get almost two identical colors in these two ways. So this is a way of mixing reds, but we can do other example with other paints, with other colors. So for example, yellow that doesn't need anything else but white to make it lighter. So here it is. And to make it darker, you can do it with purple eventually, same as the red, or with a tip of black and orange. So here it is, a darker color for yellow. Blue, for example, blue is very strong. Blue is interesting because it's usually still perceived as blue, even if you just add white, but you lose a lot of power. So yeah, you get this color that is a nicer light blue, but if you want to retain saturation, adding a little bit of green makes it way more vibrant. No? Not too much because this color is extremely powerful. But here you have lighter blues that retain more saturation. Yeah? Since we are here, let's do it with purple, with this violet, very, very powerful violet. A little bit of white and a little bit of magenta. And here you have a gradient. Okay? Violet is very dark as a color, so it's very useful for shadow painting. So mixing this color is actually easy, and they achieve these good results for you because they are pure. You usually hear people saying, oh, you cannot add white to make a color lighter because it desaturates. Well, yes, it's true, but if you don't do it, you'll get strange stuff. So it is a good habit to think about the white, but not leave it outside completely of your mixing strategy. This was mostly taught to people because miniature paints always have a little bit of white mixed inside the colors. But this is not true for Chimera colors. They are very pure, extremely pure. And this means that there is no white inside. So you need to actively add some white in it to achieve this kind of result. This is important. Otherwise, you'll get strange stuff. Example, green plus just yellow. This is not a lighter version of green, of this green at least. This is a completely different green. You know, it's not too good. So I'll show you the difference. Mix a little bit more of this and add a little bit of white to understand. So this is a lighter version of this green and not this other one. You see? So keep this in mind and mixing will become very easy, very easy. Also remember another interesting thing, that is mixing more than 2 colors plus white will yield the saturated colors. So if you need the saturation, mix more on the palette and you'll see the difference. And you will get also interesting results like very dark browns or basically a black color, as you can see from the palette, by mixing the pure blue and the pure orange. And this is because you are mixing a primary, well, it's not perfect primary, but okay, a primary with a secondary. This means you're mixing all 3 primaries, and all 3 primaries together you get a chromatic black. So here you have it, if you want to achieve this strategy, and it will work. And this will also be useful to connect the other colors and understand that they all go towards this black. And you can do your color wheel. Here it is. Wait, with the yellow, that will go down here. Okay, this is the theory. And for the outer layer of the whitish color, you add white and a little bit of the color from the nearest color towards the yellow, and you will have an outer circle of lighter colors at this point, as you can already see. So the Chimera colors in this situation will act exactly as a color wheel for you. And this is the interesting part of this type of colors, because you really have an instrument, a tool that will act predictably. And mixing shouldn't be that hard at this point, because you can predict it. You can already see it in the palette how it works. How you make a color lighter or darker is not too difficult. Not too difficult at all. I didn't do it with magenta, but hey, let's do this with a little bit of red and a little bit of white. And there you have it. Right? I see there is a little bit of reflection, but hey, I can show you. See? As you can see, I cleaned the palette to talk about an interesting topic that is always asked about the Chimera color base set. Why there are 2 blues in the set. And now that I'm here, I also explain why there are 2 yellows. So the reason is simple but hard at the same time, because the camera will not show it well. This is the phthalo blue red shade. This is the phthalo blue green shade. The camera is, I'm not sure it will show the difference good enough. This is a test you have to do in person actually. but I'll explain it to you. So these two colors are very similar when pure. So this is the red shade, and this is the green shade. In person they are a little bit different, on camera they are almost the same. But if you add a little bit of white, you will see the difference more. At least I hope so. So. Okay, in my screen is visible. I hope in your screen too. These two colors are a little bit different. You can see that this is already more purplish, if you want, more towards the ultramarine blue in a way, and this one is more greenish. So we have this difference for purists mainly. So if you are a nerd of colors, this is interesting for you. If you are not, you can use them interchangeably. But this little hint of difference is useful because this color, the green shade, will lend way better for turquoises mixes. So this means that if I have green and I add it to the mix, I will get a better turquoise color, more vibrant, than if I do the same with this other color. And the other color, the red shade, as it says in the name, it will be more useful when you try to add reds inside. This is why I put some magenta in here, because if you want to achieve interesting purple tones, you add magenta to it and you'll get this. If you do the same with the other one, you will not get the same results. So, but this doesn't mean that they are not good, these results. It means that they are different. So, as you can see, you get a colder purple with this one. And I'll show you the other side. The red shade plus green. You'll get a color that is a little bit different than this one. And this is not about the ratio, it's about how they mix together. So I hope you can appreciate the difference. This is a purist thing, but it is useful to know. Red shade for mixes with reds, green shade for mixes with green. Easy as that. And a similar situation is the warm yellow and the cold yellow, because the cold yellow is this with white, the warm one is very different, of course. My white is a little bit painted now. So these two act differently, and this cold yellow is better if you want to mix it with green most of the time, but it's not that it's better, sorry. This is a little bit different, so you'll get different results, a more strong green than if you do it with the warm yellow, and the warm yellow, as you can imagine, is better mixed with reds, so you can achieve other kind of stuff, right? So what I'm trying to say is the warm yellow and the cold yellow acts similarly as the red shade blue and the green shade blue, but play with them and see that when you mix, you'll have different results, different stuff that you might like, and it might be interesting for your own mixes. Okay, I hope this was helpful to you, and this type of mixes you should always try so you understand the palette better. You see the difference in the greens. You get a lot more varied results if you start to understand these little nuances in difference, and you train your eye in seeing them. I hope this was helpful. Okay, clean the palette again to one last very important explanation, and it is about when to add white in your mixes. This is very important. So let's take the red as an example. We are doing a red mix here, from light to dark. So we have the red. With the green, we are making a darker version of the red, see? And even more dark, because we are mixing two complementaries. And this is very dark. Then we go towards the light, and we add red plus orange, as I shown you before, okay? So now about the white, what happens? That if you want to progress towards the light, as I told you before, you need to add white in the lights. So you will add it around here, and you're losing saturation, as you can see, so you need a little bit of these other two colors, and maybe even a little bit of yellow. And then you can keep adding it and keep increasing the luminosity and saturation with orange and white and yellow. So you get this type of progression. But if you add white in another step of the mix, you will get different results. For example, if you add it here, you will get a pink. If you add it here, you will get another type of color. And if you will add it here, you get another type again. Why is that? The reason is, while going towards the shadow, if you add white, you are actually mixing black and white, making it a gray, you know? Because as I explained before, the two complementaries, red and green, they will produce a kind of black, and this is almost black. So if you add white, you'll get a gray. A red tinted gray, but still a gray. Grayish, not grayish, but pink. So you have to understand that the moment in which you will add white to your mixes, it will change everything in your palette. And this doesn't mean that it's wrong, because if you want to achieve a color that is very desaturated, this is very good, and you can do this progression maybe a little bit different, like adding more red in this, and do this type of progression that I actually used in one of my pieces that is very desaturated, the Necromancer Court. I did a similar thing like this, you know? So this is useful, but you need to know that you are doing this. Because if you start to do a red progression by making a very dark mix and starting dark, like I like to do, no? And you start with this dark color as a base, and then you go up by adding white, you will not get the richness of color. You need to go first to the pure saturated version of it in the midtones, and then you will start desaturating it with the white when you are in the lights, but not before, because if you do it before, you'll get this or this. Instead, what you want to do is this other thing. I hope this explains the situation well for you. This is also useful to paint white, actually, because if you want to do a white, your last light is complete white, but first you need to do a colored gray in a way to do your thing. So you need to mix in your white mix something different than just white. If you do just white and black, it will be very dull. So you can do a white starting from a color like this, for example. This is an idea. Or you can start the white with a basic mix of a little bit of yellow and green. Wait, this could be a mint type of white. If you add a little bit of red and a little bit more of yellow, ooh, a bit too much, but you get a khaki base color, for example, here. So you can go upward towards the white. This is a type of beige. If you add a little bit of black, it's more desaturated. But this type of mixes, of mixing all the primaries, and now I don't have a blue on the palette, so I cannot show it perfectly. But these type of mixes are very good to do cold whites, warm whites, or whatever you want. You just need to achieve a gray that has color in it, so not just black plus white. If you want to do a white gradient, I can show it to you actually. Okay, I added to the palette green, blue and black. So to the mix made before, I had just a tip of black to desaturate this thing. And okay, you can add white to it, and then you can see that you can go from here to white, and you have a white gradient very easily. You can do white in other ways too. So for example, a cold white could be white plus a little tip of blue and a little tip of black. So you have a cold white situation that you can increase with more white and do a gradient. And you can even increase your contrast with just a tip of yellow in a light that is right before the pure white. So it makes more contrast on your palette. So remember that white can be a lot of colors in it, and just the final lights are pure white if you want to achieve a thing that looks like white. There are so many. And tertiary colors, the beiges, they have all the colors inside. Green, blue, yellow, and of course a lot of white. So here it is, and it's an incredibly important topic. So yeah, let's do another type of beige here, beige base, with a little tip of green, a little tip of yellow, a tip of red. Let's desaturate it a little with black. Okay, let's move it from the light. And you add white. So you have another type of beige that is a good base for a white, in this case a warm white. It's the percentage of other colors in your mix that counts in this type of exercise. See? Because this works. It depends on the color you're using on your miniature. So the majority of the color in the mix should be, for the white, should be the dominant color of your miniature. At that point you will get a coherent color for your work. So if your dominant color of the miniature is blue, your white should be created like this. If your dominant color is red, this one is better. If your dominant color is green, this one is better. This is how you achieve good white colors in your work. Okay, that's all for today. I hope you liked the video, and if you do, consider subscribing and give it a like. Thank you, and see you for the next video. Bye!